Powered by Reb Media in partnership with TSN, it is Season 5, and this is a sparkling episode 42 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, who've introduced the first release of the Canadian Club Invitation Series, CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask. All the hallmarks of classic Canadian Club with the added richness and sweetness of sherry. Ray, we're going to get into the Stadium Series weekend in our Tim Hortons Headlines coming up in just a moment. And more specifically to the Islanders and the Rangers game. I mean, that was just bonkers. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But just your overall sense. I'm a cynic. I'm critical because I've been to many of these things and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. Watch on TV. It looks like, aside from the spectacle of the massive humanities, was there almost 80,000 people?
Right.
I get it, but I'm more and more trying to come to the realization, the acceptance, it's not about me. It's about the players. It's about the fans. It's about the NHL embracing a spectacle. And those games this weekend in that Stadium Series created a spectacle.
They did. You came upon a bigger point of life there, Dregs. It's not about you.
It's never about me.
It's not about me. It's not about you.
No.
It was amazing. So I did the one in Raleigh last year. It was terrific. It really was. It was in Carter Finley Football Stadium at NC State. It was fantastic. About 54,000 people. And it's a smaller stadium. MetLife Stadium is ginormous. Like, you see it on TV, and I'm sure it looks really big, but when you're standing in it, like, it is massive.
Oh,
it's the biggest stadium I've been in, for sure. But everything about it was perfect. It is about the local market. I think most people have come to the realization it's not about, like, remember when they had the first Winter Classic? It was going to be an annual game, the one where Sid scored with, a bunch of snow on his helmet.
It was snowing hard. Buffalo, right?
Yeah, Buffalo. And that was going to be a once-a-year thing. But now it's for the local markets more than anybody else. Like, do you know how excited the people are in Columbus that they've got the outdoor Stadium Series game next year in
Ohio Stadium
at Ohio State? And it's going to be amazing. The games, the Jersey Philly game was really good. So I'm standing there and I'm telling you, 5 seconds in the game, there's always a little bit of, I wonder how this is going to be. It was cold. It was like 24 degrees. And 5 seconds into the game, the puck goes up the boards. Luke Hughes kind of wanders over to get it. And I don't think he's quite ready for the game to start yet because Travis Konechny steamrolls him. And the sound of it, and it was like almost everybody went, whoop, there's a game on. And that was a good game. The Ranger Islander game, the way it started, the way it finished. I got to give a quick little shout out to Matt Rempe. I met him before the game. So he played his first NHL game on Sunday. He's 6'8". He's 240 pounds. Like, so he was standing on the little walkway that the players walked on. It's built up so they're not walking on the field, and so it's probably, I don't know, a foot. Yeah. And I was on the field, and I walked up, and I'm like, "Hey, Matt," and like you can't even believe how big he is. But here's the thing.
Could he hear you? The distance between
he had to lean down, right? So 6 years to the day of his NHL debut, his father passed away shoveling snow, had a heart attack in their driveway. And so Matt lost his father 6 years ago to the moment, to the day. He makes his NHL debut. He gets on the ice. There's been a goal, and him and Matt Martin fight. At that moment, his NHL stat line said 1 second played, 5 minutes in fighting. His smile in the penalty box was just awesome. So the whole day, Dregs, the spectacle, the flyover for the anthem, the mass of 79,000 people. It was awesome. I loved it.
All right, well, let's get right into it because the game between the Islanders and the Rangers, as we've alluded to here, was something else, all right? So we'll talk about that in headlines, brought to you by Tim Hortons. There's a delicious new loaded wrap and loaded bowl flavor available. Sweet chili chicken. Perfect blend of sweet and heat. Enjoy one today for dine-in, takeout, or delivery. The classic cilantro, lime, and habanero chicken loaded wrapper bowl are also still available only at Tim's. All right, beast of a game between the Islanders and the Rangers. The Isles at one point is, 4-1 lead in the second. Looks like they've got this thing wrapped up. Then what was it, like 5-3 with just over 4 minutes to play?
Yeah, just under 6 minutes. The Islanders took a penalty.
I mean, and then Peter Laviolette goes to the hijinks. And why wouldn't he, right? With the goalie pull and everything else. But what a comeback. And again, I'm going to use the word spectacle because it fed beautifully into the game that you had hoped to see to wildly entertain every fan in that building, unless you're an Islander fan, but still. I mean, you get Artemi Panarin scoring in overtime. You get the 2 goals scored by the Rangers to even the game. I mean, that was something else.
Yeah, it was. The Islanders had a great first period. They led 3-1. They make it 4-1 early in the second. At that point, it kind of stuff gets washed away with a crazy ending. But Igor Shesterkin had been just okay. He probably should have had the Horvat goal. But anyway, he makes 15 straight saves. And in that 15 straight saves, the Rangers get themselves kind of back in the game. Yeah. So, if he doesn't have a good second period, that game's long gone. So, it's now 5-3. The Islanders take a penalty. And what I liked about the way Laviolette pulled the goalie was he didn't pull him for the face-off. So, Shesterkin's in the net. And what they did, and I think it's always the best strategy, particularly when the other team's shorthanded, is you leave the goalie in to see if you can get the puck. Like if you win the face-off.
Right.
I see coaches pull the goalie. They lose the draw. The guy stands behind his goal line and shoots it 190 feet into the net. I'm like, well, just leave the goalie in and find out if you get it. So they win the draw. Trocheck, and there's a scramble. He wins it. And as soon as they get possession, Shesterkin comes out. And this is where it was key. 4 times the Rangers got the loose puck in that before the 5-4 Kreider tip goal. 4 times. Mm-hmm. So that extra player was invaluable. Now, they pull the goalie again, and Zibanejad had a pretty quiet game. I really like watching him play. Like he's so good. And he's standing almost on the goal line, and the pass that Fox makes, he almost contorts himself into this position, and he just it's right on the tape. And
it's so good.
The Rangers big boys came up big at the end, right? Like you mentioned Panarin's overtime goal. They had the review to finish it up, and so everyone, can Patrick Waugh fix the Islanders? You still got the same players.
Yeah,
they're not quite quick enough. They're not quite fast enough. Patrick wants to play aggressively. They're just a smidge slow. And I think at times when the game gets a little crazy, they can't quite get to where they need to go. And I don't know. I forget. I had it yesterday, but I think that's 9, or the other day. I think that's 9 third period leads they've blown and lost this year.
Oof.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's 14 times they've lost in either overtime or the shootout. So say they just win half of those Dregs.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're 7 points ahead of their current pace. They're in a good spot right now. They're hanging by a thread. And JG Pajot said, he goes we need these points. They want them. Yeah. And as it turned out, the Rangers win their 7th straight game. Remember that little streak they had, 11-11 and whatever, 11-11 and 4. I think the Rangers. Well, that's a long time ago because they've won 7 in a row.
I'm sure you caught this. The Rangers posted a video of Mike Keenan and Mark Messier addressing the New York Rangers. We'll call it dressing room, but I mean, it's makeshift, obviously, pregame. Was this not vintage Keenan? I mean, talking about the investment required by each member of the organization to win the Stanley Cup. Of course, he's referencing the Rangers back in 1994, the role that's assigned by Peter Laviolette to each Ranger player. Own it, invest in it. Like 74-year-old legendary coach who has not lost his swagger. And I had a brief text exchange with him afterwards. I just said, Mike, that was so good, so you. And he says, yeah, I appreciate that. He goes, it was impromptu. I don't think it was supposed to happen. I mean, that's the sense that I got.
Well,
I mean,
you know why you didn't see it on the air?
No.
It didn't play in the game because it was supposed to be 45 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Because
that's all you get.
No, because that's all the time, right? Like there's all, so we're like, it's got to be 45, maybe a minute, maybe. And so we could use it. It was
awesome.
great. It was great. But we got a sponsor, we got a this and a that, and the other thing. So
I didn't know
it was
that.
Awesome.
That explains a lot because you could kind of see Mess fidgeting a little bit, right? So
because
he knows he's kind of a TV guy, and I mean, he's sat on the panels, and I mean, he knows that you have an allotment of time, and it's not like you wanted to jump in and cut him off, but you can tell he was like getting antsy. Okay, Mike, hand it over. Let's go. We got to get going.
We got to roll here.
That was fantastic. All right. Well, it seems like a Ranger-related headlines, New York-related anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the NHL announces that the Islanders will host the 2026 NHL All-Star. Beautiful building, right? No. Like you can appreciate, that facility hosting again.
It'll be great. It'll be great. The game, the area around, I don't exactly know what they call it, but there's like an outdoor area arena that they'll turn into like a huge tailgate thing. That will look amazing.
So not to be the Debbie Downer, but the first thing that comes to mind to me is logistics, because I'm thinking most people are going to stay in Manhattan. No, I would think.
Sure.
How are you getting there all weekend? There's going to be like this stream of Ubers or buses or whatever.
Well, I got an idea. If you don't understand how the train works, figure it out, because that's going to be the way to get there. I did an Islander game. I was staying in Manhattan. I want to say it took me a shade under 2 hours in an Uber. I was like, where am I going? The answer was nowhere. Yeah. You're going nowhere. It's those that don't know about public transit are going to learn about it in a hurry. That's your lifeline.
Including the players, right? Maybe they'll have helicopters or something. That's a very New York thing to do. Just make sure the players get there.
I wonder where the teams stay. A lot of them do stay in Manhattan. That will be. I mean, that logistically it is a challenge, or don't stay in Manhattan.
Yeah,
like you're going to have to figure something else. Yeah,
it's not that big of a deal. All right. Another big part of the weekend was a celebration in Pittsburgh. Right, the Penguins honoring Jaromir Jagr, retiring his sweater, number 68, now hangs in the rafters. I always enjoy moments like that and games like that. Less so, the speech was kind of cool. We'll hear from Jaromir in just a second because there was a funny soundbite there. But just all the great players that help make a great player a Hall of Famer and, a sweater worthy of retirement. And certainly that's the case with Jaromir Jagr. But you see Mario Lemieux, of course. You see Ron Francis, the current guys, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, enjoying. You couldn't knock the smile off of Sidney Crosby or Chris Letang hanging around Jagr. But first, I want some thoughts from you on Jagr as a player, what he was like to play against, the weekend in general. But first, this funny clip that I was teeing up.
I want to say thanks to Dominica, my girlfriend. She's too young to remember I played in Pittsburgh, but I told her all the stories, so don't worry about it.
So there is Jaromir obviously having some fun at the expense of his girlfriend. But it kind of ties into some of the preamble that the Penguins posted on social media beforehand. And Jagr was legit nervous about giving this speech, right? And he's like, Mario, if I forget something, you're going to have, or if I'm going too long, you're going to have to jump in and bail me out. But those things are so vintage. And I guess I'm thinking, the swagger that Jaromir Jagr has always maintained was there. That's such a big part of his personality, right? So some people would think, oh, what's he poking fun at his young girlfriend for? But isn't that kind of the larger than life personality that Jagr is?
Well, around him, there was always an element of fun, right? Like the way he played, the way he, the way he, I don't know, just the way he went about just about everything, I think. He was different. Like Mario was quiet and, he brooding a little bit, and Ron Francis was very serious, and, Ulf Samuelsson was a lunatic racing around, crashing into people. And Jagr had there was just a different way about all of them. Now, when we first saw him, right, he was 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And, you look, the first thing you noticed was his hair, right? Like it was just, but
the super
he
mullet,
was he was so big. Yeah. And when he had the puck, you couldn't, even at 18, like you couldn't knock him over.
He'd throw that big arse out there, right? Just to protect the puck.
So wide. And he'd get his feet wide, and he's big, like he's tall. He would hold the puck way away from you. They'd get like a 4-on-4 and have Mario and him on the ice. You never had the puck. Like you just couldn't get it. If you didn't have it first, you never got it. I think, when I think of Jagr, I think of a couple of goals. Like I think of his one in the finals against Chicago, where he spins Brent Sutter into the ice along with 4 other Blackhawks, and then goes in and dekes a goalie and scores. It was in Chicago Stadium. It was amazing. I think of him going where he cuts in off the right wing, gets his feet wide, and everybody's hacking and whacking at him and trying to drag him down, and they just can't pull him down, and he would score. I had the chance to interview him one time. Of course, I was retired, and he had come back to the NHL, and he talked about, that's when he was going, like in Philadelphia, he had a key to the rink, and he was going back to the rink at like 11 at night and skating in a weight vest. And he said, I'm a grinder. I work. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think anyone would ever consider you a grinder. And he just loved the work of the game. He loved trying to be better. And he was an amazing, amazing talent. And the only reason he can't be in the Hall of Fame is because he won't retire. Yeah. So as soon as he retires, then they could start the clock on his 3 years. And, that'll be about the easiest vote around.
Yeah, I referenced him as a Hall of Famer just because he is. He's just technically not in there yet. So that's a good catch by you. How about the Talkin story? Just a funny little soundbite where he said, Jaromir, I think, organized his own birthday party, and they invited like 900 people, and 875 of them are women.
The Penguins played, or what did they say? They walked to a different drummer. Those guys, like that whole team, like that, the 91 and 92 and 93 teams, like they were loaded with Hall of Famers and huge personalities. And some of the stories that start getting told around those weekends that, they come out in articles, but there's also, of course, ones we never hear about. But man, they had a lot of fun. Those guys had a lot of fun.
All right, move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs and some of the stuff that's going on around the Leafs. They win their 4th straight Monday afternoon. After back-to-back hat-trick games, Auston Matthews had a pedestrian afternoon. Just scored his 49th of the season. Not that big of a deal. So that's 49 now in 53 games. He's 10 goals ahead of Sam Reinhart. So obviously right now he's the best goal scorer in the game. But is he clearly the favorite to win the Hart, or are we getting ahead of ourselves here?
That's ahead, I think, because I, I think there will be different ways to look at that award as we get closer to the finish line.
Okay.
And whether Auston is the most valuable to his team or the most outstanding player, which is the one the players vote on. Mm-hmm. They're two different things, I think, and I think that's the way it gets viewed. I mean, he's lapping the field in goals right now. It's not even close. It's like he's playing in a bantam tournament. Like, it's ridiculous. I looked yesterday, and when you look at the box score and you expect to see somebody's name there, like it's the NHL. What am I expecting to see his name there for? But it's there all the time. And man, what an amazing year he's having. And so what's his 53 games? What do they have left? About 28 or so, 27, something like that. Yeah. So, man, can he get 21 goals? Like, it seems impossible, doesn't it?
Well, I was asked about this in a quiz question 3 weeks ago, right? And the option was like 60 goals, 65, 70. O-Dog, of course, goes high. He goes 70. I think I'm just kind of middle of the pack at 65. And he gave me the stink eye on live TV. Like, I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. I'm like, 65 is a pretty big number, Like, it's, but now you can see, 70 is attainable. It's not a stretch.
Well, but can you score almost a goal a game for the next quarter of the season? Like, it's not like we're talking about 5 games or 7 games, and he's already gone on this unbelievable stretch of 20 plus games. I think he's got 20 goals in his last 21 games. He pretty much has to do it again.
Yeah.
And so I think 70 is too high, only because I'm just in awe of the thought of somebody being able to do that. It just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well,
he'll get 65 though. 65, I think he gets for sure.
Yeah, and we qualify it with every player as long as he stays healthy. And for me, that's what I see above all else. He had the lingering wrist hand issue last year. That impacted him. Now, man, every time he's got that puck on his stick, no matter if it's left side, middle, right side, it's the release, it's the shot, it's the accuracy, it's all of the above. So he's certainly among the best stories in the league right now. Trade deadline is not that far away, March 8th. We keep talking about the Calgary Flames and what is Craig Conroy going to do additionally. He's done some things already, significant moves. Noah Hanifin seems very unlikely that he will extend and stay in Calgary, but it also seems like the problem that Craig Conroy and the Flames have, Ray, is you got to make this call, Noah. Like, if you're not extending, just say you're not extending. And again, I'm couching it by saying that's most probable. But what it's encouraged, and it's more of a timeline issue for Conroy and company, management of the Flames has to go out and have solid trade conversations with the most interested teams. And when you
let me stop you.
Yeah.
But let me stop you. Yeah. What's Hanifin's trade protection?
I don't know if he has the no move. He would have a no trade for sure.
He does,
Yeah. Well, I'll
sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. No worries. No worries.
But it was because there is a timeline. Of course, his agents would understand the need to clarify that. But there's nothing going to change in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
he's got an 8-team no-trade list. So it's a modified no-trade clause for this year and next year, according to Cap Friendly.
Well, okay. So here, then really there's no timeline issue. He would have had to put those 8 teams in before the season.
Correct.
Get to work.
Yeah.
Get to work. And the only thing you can do is now, like, I'm now saying this is not on the player anymore.
Right.
You make your last best offer. You put your own deadline on it. Hey, if we don't have an answer by Thursday, here's the offer. Yeah. This is what we can do. We know which 8 teams are on the no trade list. Yeah. We're going to start working with the other teams.
I'm with you.
And because if this is what's holding him up, then he's got to get to work.
Yeah.
You know, you've afforded enough time here. You've got a deadline that you don't want to box yourself in, that the most interested teams go, you know what? I can't wait anymore because I need a defenseman now.
Right.
And I go somewhere else. And then pretty soon you get left holding the bag. That would be the worst scenario for Calgary.
Well, and I liked how you positioned that because, you know, again, don't leave it to the player. Yeah, I mean, he'd be a key part of leadership. He's playing his best hockey maybe ever.
He's playing great.
He's been terrific.
And he's a really good player.
Yeah, and so you can see why Calgary would want to invest, but you can't force it. So the one thing you can't do is exactly what Craig Conroy said he wouldn't do when he took over the job of general manager, and that's leave an asset or allow an asset to walk out the door, right? So, I mean,
Dregs,
the smart
here's
money
the
is
thing.
on a trade for sure.
The guy turned down $50 million, right?
Yeah, at least I think it was higher than that. I think it was 60.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
so let's say it's $60 million. He turned it down. Wasn't sure, not sure of direction, not sure if he wants to commit to Calgary for 8 years.
Yeah.
If that deal is the deal, he's either take it or don't.
Yeah.
Like you've had enough time now to think about it. You've seen, that they've traded, a couple of times, and it certainly look like they're going to trade a couple more. If you don't want to be part of that, unless he's angling for more money, which I can't imagine is in the cards.
No, probably not.
Craig Conroy's it's not a tough spot. It's like, that's the spot you're in. It's time to put your heels in the ground and make your decision and get on with it.
All right, those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons.
Introducing Tim's new Sweet Chili Chicken Loaded Wraps and Bowls. Packed with delicious and hearty ingredients and topped with our new Sweet Chili Sauce. Try Tim's Sweet Chili Chicken Loaded Wraps and Bowls today.
Our interviews on Ray and Dregs are brought to us by Canadian Club Whiskey, who have announced the first release of the Canadian Club Invitation Series CC 15-year-old Sherry Cask. It's the signature CC Classic 12-year-old whiskey, finished with a secondary aging in Oloroso Sherry Cask. Ask Ray and Dregs anything. You can send us your questions on Twitter and Instagram at Ray and Dregs. I guess I should call it X. Get with the times. Yeah. X. Send it to us on X. Yeah, at Ray and Dregs, the website. Our address is rayandregs.com. Okay, we've got a special display here, Ray.
Oh,
okay?
Yes.
This, by the way, was your idea. And it's a shout out to our good friend, Mitch Dawson, who's a marketing director for Titleist Canada, right? Or I guess it would be FootJoy Canada. So I know you received the same
I did.
pair of shoes.
The only difference,
the size?
No, the only difference is I've already got mine on my feet and walked around the kitchen with them.
Yes, you do. So this is mostly for our YouTube channel. Just a beautiful pair of FootJoy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mitch. Awesome shoes, so comfortable.
Yeah, the Pro SLX, right? You and I are the same when it comes to this sort of thing, right? Every time I see that FootJoy parcel on the step, it's like Christmas morning, because you're like, is it shirts? Is it, the wind jackets? Is it shoes? Like, what we got here?
Cammy picked it up, and like the package ratio at our house is about 27-1.
Yeah.
There's never anything, I don't know anything. I don't know. And so she's like, oh, there's a package for you. And I was like, what is it? She goes, something from FootJoy. I'm like, oh, give me that. I was so happy.
Open it immediately. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So, thank you very much, Mitch. Yeah, it will not be long before those will get a workout.
So we're dedicating Ask Ray and Dregs Anything to the good people at FootJoy and Titleist. So thank you very much. All right. A couple of questions here. One Canucks related from DJ Taxman 77. Ray, do players get taught about game management? The Canucks lately seem to have no clue about it, especially on the road. You got to know when you're up, don't do anything. I'm not sure what that means. The Lindholm call was a Hall of Fame bad call, but the score was 1-0, so don't touch anybody. Zadorov at 5-2 as well. Just an exaggeration from a Canucks fan, or is there some game management issues here, Ray?
Well, okay, I got a couple of things. First of all, we didn't touch on the game yesterday in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota scored 7 goals in the third period.
How bonkers was that?
I think 4 of them, well, at least 3 were 5-on-3 goals. And so, like, I've never, ever seen that stretch of time from late second to 5 minutes into the third. It was like Minnesota just scored like crazy. It was wild. So here's the thing. You hear coaches say all the time, we need a 60-minute game. We want to control the play. It's a word salad. It means nothing. Nobody controls the game for 60 minutes. The other team's pretty good too, even if they suck. Yeah, they're pretty good too. And there's going to be portions of the game where they're better than you. Game management means make the right play as many times as you can. What the Canucks did, I still think they're the top team in the league, is they played a game with a dunce cap on yesterday.
Penalties,
and it happens.
Stick penalties and nonsense.
Yeah, and it happens. And sometimes it just, you can't even believe it while it's happening. Like, I've been in games like that. You're like, what is going on here? And it's one guy to the next, to the next. The reason that was critical, that game to me, is they're in Denver tonight. Yeah. And so that's a tough turn. And game management, poor play, undisciplined for one day. Yeah, it was all there. Like that was a disappointing loss for them for sure yesterday.
So Zuby puts out the tweet just acknowledging that we're accepting questions for Ask Ray and Dregs anything, right? And yeah, so I'm just scrolling through the replies. One that's interesting to me is from Tiffany, Ray. And Tiffany says, would Ray ever unblock someone who's very sorry she upset him years ago? So I'm assuming back in the older, grumpier Ray days, she must have chirped you about something and you were like, I don't have time for this.
Now, I'm sure that's what happened. Do you ever look at your account settings and see how many people you've blocked?
No. But it would be a big number, yeah.
I was quite surprised, and I was like, wow. So I wouldn't even know who I've blocked, right? I've gone more over time. Now I just don't even bother, but I went from the blocks to the mutes.
Oh yeah, and the mute button is exceptional. Yeah.
Because that's like the old days. The people that are yelling at you can't hear them. So so I kind of like that. So yeah, sorry, Tiffany, I have no idea. I wouldn't even know how to unblock somebody. I wouldn't know where to find it. I wouldn't know that.
I shouldn't tell this story. I shouldn't tell it because it'll encourage the dum-dums out there, but I am going to tell it. So I had this Instagram back and forth with a young guy, a hockey player, not a professional hockey player, but a university level hockey player. And his name I recognized as a former major junior player, right? And I'm like, why is this guy taking a run at me? Like, so I read it and I send him a direct message. I say, hey man, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you coming after me? And he apologized. So it was fine. I let it go. Twice this past week, Tuesday and Thursday, we're doing Leaf regional games. He calls me on his Instagram audio. So he's trying, he's probably sitting with his buddies thinking, watch this. I'm going to call Dreger. It's going to ring. Ha, ha, ha. This is hilarious. So what option did I have, right? I had to block him. He's out. Blocked.
Yeah, there was no reason for that. Like I don't even know how that would even happen.
Well, it
right?
Did. The second game, Thursday, I'm like, all right.
Joke's over.
To catch me. Yeah, good one.
Yeah. Before we leave, ask Ray and Dregs. I don't know if we're going to get it yet. I don't know if we're going to get to it, but I have noticed in the Leafs 4-game winning streak, nobody's talking about Morgan Riley's cross-check anymore.
No. You want to talk about it? Maybe it gets reduced today, by the way. It could.
No, but my point is the entire Leaf Nation was in a hurricane.
Yeah.
And now everything's fine. Four wins, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I find it amusing.
Well, Bobby McMahon is terrific, and the blue line has settled in.
Good for him, though.
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
Although I say this, I like how people are now. Hey, I mean, absolutely good for Bobby McMahon. He's making the most of his opportunity. He's a good hockey player, but some look at him as a prospect. He's 27. Like, he's been around a while. It's just taken him this long to find his way.
I'll give you. Yeah. I'm at the Stadium Series. You know who's a really useful player for the Rangers? Johnny Brodzinski. He's 30.
Yeah.
But he's 30. And so remember when Derek Ryan popped on the scene?
Yes.
And now all of a sudden, Derek Ryan has put together a really good, solid career. You can find players later, but to expect them to be like they're going to grow and change, they are what they are, and they can provide a role fill for you. And if those guys can provide it at the cost that they can, that's a big win. That's like a free player in the bottom of your lineup.
Yeah, and if you're Toronto and you're looking to next year where the cap crunch is going to be significant, you need the Bobby McMahons and the Nick Robertsons and players like that, right?
Bobby McMahon is the type of player, if he finishes this year out strongly, might play himself to a dollar figure that the Leafs can't afford.
Yeah. Ilya Lyubushkin.
Because they're not
right?
Like it happens pretty quietly, and then you lose another player. Yeah. And that's part of the cap crunch.
Okay, let's wrap up Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to you by FootJoy, with a Leafs question. And this is clickbait, low-hanging fruit, but we're going to have some fun with it anyway. From, I believe, Fiaz Jadoun. So if you're Leafs management, a.k.a. Brad Treliving, do you trade Mitch Marner now that you've re-signed Nylander and use his high trade value as an avenue to get that stud defenseman and third line center? No.
Well,
not yet.
But so Marner makes how much? 10-5, I think.
Yeah.
He's in there.
5.
He's got another year left on his deal, and then I'm assuming his salary's not going down. It's going the other way. So the team that you're trading him for, you're going to get a stud defenseman and a third line center for $10 million or $11 million.
Yeah.
Oof. I think you're probably trading into the same type of player, like at the same value.
Yeah.
And not many teams are deep enough. This is the problem the Leafs have here. And anyone looking for a standout defenseman is you're not getting them in most cases for a winger. As good as Marner is, like it's a hard deal to make, because if another team has a stud defenseman, they're not giving him to you. They've got him. And then they're going to spend the next 10 years looking for a stud defenseman. It's a hard position to fill. Trust me, the management there, they know they need defense.
Yeah. But
you can't just go, as Kenny Holland says, you can't go to the defenseman store and buy one. Like, there just isn't any.
No.
So it's I get it. I understand it. But I think it's a really hard move to make. They're not trading Marner. That's not happening.
Well, and it's certainly not between now and the trade deadline, but I'm not looking forward to the summer, because it's going to be endless rumor after rumor after rumor coming out of Toronto, with Tavares and Marner heading into the final year of their contract. So, and Edmonton, of course.
That's good for you.
Yeah.
Enjoy your summer.
I'll be at the Cabbage with my phone off. So that's
we're watching baseball.
All right, buddy. How much travel this week? Standard stuff?
I leave tomorrow for Tampa.
Yeah.
Tampa's really having fun these days. They got pounded 9-2, and then they lost again 9-2 to Florida. Florida's a wagon right now.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Ottawa yesterday, so they have Washington to finish up a dreadful homestand. That's on Thursday, and then I got Rangers Flyers on Saturday.
Nice.
And looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right. Travel safe.
Thank you, Dregs. I know we'll figure out this week sometime, Thursday, whatever. And we'll thank everybody for popping on and listening. And have a good week. We'll talk to you later on.
You bet. Thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs, our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey, and Tim Hortons. And as Ray mentions, as always, thank you for listening, for rating, and sharing the podcast, and for following us on the Ray and Dregs YouTube channel as well. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.